The Council is now ready to proceed to the vote on the draft resolution before it. With those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2017/315, please raise their hand. Those against? Abstentions? The result of the vote is as follows: 10 votes in favor, 2 votes against, 3 abstentions. The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of Council. I now give the floor to those members of the Council who wish to make statements after the vote. I will start by giving the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam President. The conflict that has ravaged Syria has lasted for more than 6 years. For the people of Syria, that must feel like an eternity. Here in this chamber, we only get so many moments to act, only so many moments to show them that hope is not dead, for the world to unite in condemnation of war crimes. Today was one of those moments. What happened in Khan Sheikhoun last week was the worst of human acts. UK scientists have now analysed samples obtained from Khan Sheikhoun, and these samples have tested positive for the nerve agent sarin or a sarin-like substance. We therefore share the US assessment that it is highly likely that the regime was responsible for a sarin attack on Khan Sheikhoun. We recognise the need for a thorough, swift, independent investigation. Russia's foreign minister has this afternoon also called for such an investigation. Yet Russia has vetoed a resolution that would support that investigation. Their messages are mixed, their aims confused. The OPCW fact-finding mission and the Syrian people need our political support, something that we should have been able to give as a Security Council. The UK will continue to give this support, and regardless of today's votes, the work of the OPCW will continue. We've once again encountered a Russian veto, the 8th time that Russia has used its veto to protect the Syrian regime. This one is even more regrettable, given that Russia was the architect of the 2013 agreement to dismantle Syria's chemical weapons program, an initiative that has demonstrably failed. Russia cannot now possibly claim that it opposes the use of chemical weapons. Russia has seen the same pictures that we all saw just days ago in this chamber. How could anyone look at the faces of lifeless children and choose to veto a resolution condemning those deaths? It is indefensible that Russia has chosen to protect the perpetrators of these attacks rather than work with the rest of the international community to condemn them. When those images and videos were broadcast across screens around the world, my team received a message from another child, from Bana Alabed, the 7-year-old Syrian girl from Aleppo, who, with the help of her mother, has given the world a window into the conflict through Twitter. And the message she sent was simple. Open quotes, "You can make a difference. Demand justice for the children," close quotes. She is one voice, but one that echoes the views of millions of Syrians. Demand justice for the children. The heartbreaking truth is that a little girl's plea will not be heard in this chamber. Not today. But regardless of the veto today, trust these words. We will hold the regime to account. We will continue to work with our international partners to put an end to any use of chemical weapons and to seek justice for all the victims of these heinous chemical attacks. We will gather in the OPCW in The Hague tomorrow to discuss how best to support a credible international investigation that establishes who was responsible and paves the way to hold the culprits to account. The catastrophe in Syria is not the way it has to be. Yesterday, foreign ministers from the G7 and key regional countries came together in Italy to discuss how to move forward from last week's tragedy. They gave strong support to Secretary Tillerson's visit to Moscow today to discuss how Russia could work with the international community to end the tragedy of the war in Syria. Russia has the sort of influence over the regime that could bring to an end the regime's use of chemical weapons and barrel bombs, and could lead to a real ceasefire that then leads to the resumption of serious political negotiations on a political transition. Those foreign ministers indicated that if Russia took these steps, the international would be ready to work with Russia to bring peace to Syria, defeat Daesh and terrorism, and reconstruct Syria. So this is the choice Moscow has in front of it. The world now waits to see if Russia will respond to the G7 and assume its responsibilities as a permanent member of the Security Council to help put a stop to the Assad regime's use of chemical weapons and to work with the international community to bring this tragedy to an end. Thank you.
I shall now make a statement in my capacity as the representative of the United States. Abdel Hamid al-Youssef put his twin 9-month-old babies in the ground last week. Each branch of Abdel's extended family reportedly got its own trench to bury their dead. One family, 22 victims. Abdel held his twins in his arms. He tried to keep himself together. He tried to stop his tears. All Abdel could say before putting his twins in their final resting place was, "Say goodbye, baby, say goodbye." Two of the smallest victims of the Assad regime's vicious and barbaric chemical attack. No one anywhere in the world should ever have to face that kind of suffering. That is why the United States, the United Kingdom, and France put forward this resolution. It was a step to hold the perpetrators of this chemical attack accountable, and I thank those members who supported this effort. But with its veto, Russia said no to accountability. Russia said no to cooperation with the UN's independent investigation. And Russia said no to a resolution that would have helped promote peace in Syria. Russia once again has chosen to side with Assad, even as the rest of the world, including the Arab world, overwhelmingly comes together to condemn this murderous regime. Russia said this resolution was biased and that the Assad regime was not involved. This resolution simply emphasized the information the regime is already required to provide to investigators. The UN Joint Investigative Mechanism and the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons have told us many times that Assad will not provide access to investigate. We need to continue to support their role in further investigating what happened on April 4th. If the regime is innocent, as Russia claims, the information requested in this resolution would have vindicated them. Unfortunately, this was Russia's 8th veto on the Syrian resolution. The United States takes no pleasure in seeing Russia isolated again on the Security Council. We want to work with Russia to advance a political process for Syria. We want Russia to use its influence over the Assad regime to stop the madness and the cruelty we see every day on the ground. Today's vote could have been a turning point. Once more, this vote could have been the moment when Russia saw that its interests do not lie with the murderous dictator, but rather with the many countries in the international community, including those across the Middle East, that want to end this conflict. By its failure, Russia will continue to be isolated. We urge Russia to join forces with the overwhelming number of countries that are pushing for a political solution. The international community has spoken. Russia now has a lot to prove. To Assad and the Syrian government, you have no friends in the world after your horrible actions. The United States is watching your actions very closely. The days of your arrogance and disregard of humanity are over. Your excuses will no longer be heard. I suggest you look at this vote very carefully and heed this warning. Thank you.